Hello and welcome back to Zinc Sterling. Thank you to S Parts for recommending this video, and after searching the internet I hope this was the type of chain you were referring to. To start out you'll need some wire. I chose 0.75mm sterling silver, and also you'll need a jig to make your links. This is 6 nails on the inside circle and 6 nails on the outer circle, which will give you a snowflake design. I would like to start off by apologizing for how out of focus this part of the video does get, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your wire and you're going to wrap it around the inner and outer posts of that jig that you made. They're just finishing nails that I cut the heads off of so I could pull the wire off after I did it, and you're just going to wrap it around the outer and inner posts to make those snowflake shaped links. Here I'm using a graduated metal spike, which I will use later to expand the loops so that the links fit inside each other, to just hold it down so that it stays down at the base of the jig as I go. Now that I've pulled the pre-shaped links off of the jig, here I just go to cut them apart. It's important that you cut on the inside of the link, not on the outside, because the stress that you'll put the outer portion of those links through later on will make them prone to breaking if you try to cut them toward the outside of the link. At this point I've cut off the last of my links, and I'm just putting them all on a big bundle so that I can heat them with a torch all at the same time to anneal them. I ended up with 52 grams of links. I didn't measure the total length of wire needed, I just did by weight. So I was using 0.75mm wire, and I used 52 grams of it. Now that we've finished annealing, the next step is to flatten each of the links down and then line up the seam for soldering. At this point, I'm using some flux just to make it to where I don't have issues with the solder running, a solder pick, and some hard solder to solder each link together. At this point, we enter into the longest portion of this video, and I start off by doming each of the links. Now, getting the chain started is by far the hardest part. It can be kind of finicky. You want to make sure you pinch your links as close together on the inside as possible so that they'll fit inside of each other. You'll see as we go along. This part can be really finicky, but once you get the chain started, it's a very easy chain to make. Now starting off here, I didn't realize that through this next portion I'm slightly off camera, but I do bring it onto camera enough to show you what's going on. Basically, you're going to take 3 separate wires and you're going to catch the inside bends of each link, and then you're going to twist that wire together. So at the end, you'll end up with 3 wires that you'll twist together. And that's going to hold your first link shape so that you can start to attach the next links to it. Here you'll see, now that all 3 wires are attached, you end up with basically a flower, where you've caught the inside bend of each link and you end up with your 6 individual lobes. And then at this point, I take that graduated metal spike and I start to expand out those lobes so that they become circles, and then you'll get what looks like a flower. Now that you have all 6 of those lobes expanded, that's what you should start off with. It should look like a little domed flower. Now at this point I realized that I hadn't domed over my other links far enough to make them fit inside of each other, and getting that first link in is always the hardest part. So I just go back to my dapping block here and just put those links into a smaller circle to get a tighter dome so that it'll make it a little bit easier to line everything up. Now that I have that link into a tighter circle, I pinch the inside portions together a little bit more. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take each of the lobes from the link that I'm bending over my finger, and you're going to put them inside of the lobes that you opened up on the starting link. And here was the only time I had to pinch the lobes with pliers. It was just because that first one is always hard to get started. Now this is what it should look like once you get all 6 lobes fed through. And then you just want to lightly bend them each up, and then you're going to use that spike to expand those lobes open, because you're going to keep bending up the last one that you put in to put the next one in. And here you can see I'm expanding just the last lobe, and then it makes that flower again, and you're just going to bend all those in so that the next link can fit inside of those lobes that you just opened up. And from here you will just repeat this same process of bending one link inside of another over and over and over until you end up with your chain. Like I said, I did 52 grams, and I think at the end I ended up with a 19-inch chain overall. Once you get your chain made, you want to pull it through a wooden draw plate. I just used a 2x4 and I drilled some different sized holes in it, starting big down to the size that I want the chain to end up at the end. And before I can start drawing that chain down, I first need to anneal it so that it doesn't crack or break, because if you don't anneal your chain before you draw it down, you will end up breaking links, and then once you break a link, there's not really any way to fix it unless you have a laser welder on hand, or unless you're really, really good with a micro torch. Here I'm just adding an extra piece of wire so that I'll have some sticking out of the end of the 2x4 so that I can grab a hold of with my drawing wires. It was just the 2x4 was a bit thick and the tail I left on it wasn't quite long enough. From here you just pull your chain through the holes. The first couple of passes in the first two holes is gonna just kind of even up all your links and make your chain more uniform, and then once you get down to your smaller holes is where you're actually pulling it down to where it's the size that you want it to turn out at the end. One thing I do recommend is between pulling your chain through the different sized holes is to kind of bend it back and forth and look and make sure you haven't broken a link anywhere. If you do break a link, like I said before, I don't have a laser welder or a micro torch, so I would just be hoping that there was enough chain there to make like a bracelet. If it does break, I've had them break in half. Hopefully end up with enough for a bracelet. If not, all you can really do is try to add links onto it again. You can expand it back out and try to do a repair that way, or you just melt it down and go from scratch. Here we're just annealing the chain again before we go into the conditioning stage. To condition the chain, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that 2x4 with I actually used like a 2-pound sledgehammer, and I didn't use it for the hammer part of it, it was for the handle, so that I could use the nice hickory handle to condition the chain on. And the purpose of this conditioning is to make your chain bend more fluidly. You don't want it to be real choppy and stiff when it bends. You'll see here in just a second, I'll pull it off of the dowel and I'll compare the portion of the chain that I didn't condition to the portion that I am conditioning currently. So right here you can see where I haven't conditioned it, it barely bends, and where I have conditioned it, I can bend it almost into like a ring-sized loop. Thank you for watching this video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, And if there's something you'd like to see me make that you haven't figured out how to make yourself, drop it in the comments below, and I'm always looking for more ideas. Here you can see the 6 lobe chain on the inside. In the middle there's a 4 lobe chain. On the outside is a Viking knit chain. Thank you and have a great day.